Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Greenius. I'm Bella, your 13-year-old sustainability ambassador, professional planet lover, and someone who still believes recess should be longer. Today's episode is extra special because my guest is someone who's been part of my story long before this podcast even existed. Maryam Denton-Cardew isn't just the Director of Education at Heather Harries Education, or a sustainability superstar. She was also my Year 4 teacher. Yep, the original science queen who taught me to look at the world with curiosity, wonder, and the confidence to ask slightly awkward questions. And if you know her, you know this. She loves a sidetrack. She'll start explaining physics and somehow end up telling you about a frog she once rescued from her balcony. So in today's episode, I'll be doing what I've been doing since Year 4, bringing her back to the topic with love. This episode is all about nature connection, how we can feel part of the natural world even while living in a city full of skyscrapers and traffic lights, and Miss DC's vision of her dream school where learning feels alive, green, joyful, and full of heart. Miss DC, welcome back into my life and onto my podcast. Let's dive in. Miss DC, it's so great to have you on the Greenies today. How does it feel?
Thank you so much for having me, Bella. It was honestly an honor to be asked. If you had asked me when we first met all those years ago whether I could even have fractionally imagined that this is where we would be, there's not a chance. There is absolutely not a chance. So thank you so much for your invitation.
Thank you. I want to start with your origin story because every climate hero has one. Where did you first get into sustainability? Was there a moment when you were little, or was it something that came further on? Let's hear it.
Do you know what? It's always kind of been embedded in my family. So my dad's from England, my mom is from Iran, and my dad grew up in quite, should we say, a tough circumstance, and so it wasn't the land of plenty, his childhood, shall we say, and so it meant that he always kind of used things until their absolute end of life, and then after that he would then fix them. And so he was really, really good at fixing stuff, and he taught us as much as he could. And both of my parents have always been huge travelers. And, the more you travel through this beautiful planet, the more you see how just phenomenally stunning it is. And so we always had a love of the natural world from that. So I think those two things, and then also both of my parents are extremely loving, caring, kind, compassionate people. And I think that really at the core of sustainability, it's really about, I think that's what it's about. It's about being the best human that you can be. And so I think a lot of things kind of came together to make me who I am in terms of having such a massive passion for protecting the natural world and for making, life as we live it a much more sustainable life.
Wow, that's so inspiring. So it was deeply embedded in your life.
Yeah. It wasn't even something where, it was talked about as a separate topic. It was weaved through everything, our whole life. We grew our own vegetables, we composted, we only cooked as much as we needed. We tried to be as local as we could. We'd go to the farms where there were. And we were always going out together as a family and trying to help in the community. So yeah, it's definitely been because of the amazing upbringing that my parents gave me.
Wow, such a great way to be. Now, you've been a science educator for many years, and now you call yourself a science educator turned change maker. And you've stepped into this role where you're shaping whole school sustainability strategies. Before you were the Director of Education at Heather Harries Education, you were leading sustainability at Citizen School. Could you take us back to the moment where you thought, okay, I'm not just teaching about the world anymore, I'm going to help how schools work for the world? What triggered that shift for you?
Yeah, no, great question, Bella. I would say that it was kind of building over the course of my years as leading sustainability and citizens. And it came from just the more conversations that I would have with my students where we'd be talking about sustainability, because trust me, I can probably link everything to sustainability.
And you did, and you did.
And so we'd be talking about it, and then the students would kind of turn around and say, well, why isn't our school doing that? So I knew that we needed to get a lot more school leaders to address the gaps in the sustainability initiatives. And so that's why I kind of shifted from doing it in one school to join the network that I'm in right now to try and bring it about and just get the conversation going across all schools, or as many as we can at least.
Yeah, of course. That's amazing. And sustainability is a word that, every adult uses a lot in assemblies,
Yes.
in board meetings, in glossy brochures, on smoothies, and it can start to feel like background noise or something that's
Yes.
become inevitably sort of meaningless.
Yeah.
But I know you're very careful about making it feel real, human, and impactful, not just like a buzzword. If we
Thank you.
stripped away all the fancy language and the PowerPoints and the labels, how do you personally define sustainability? And what does it look like on an ordinary Tuesday in school?
So I had a friend at school, a good friend of mine in high school, and she absolutely loved reading. I hadn't quite discovered the love of reading yet, but anyway, so she loved reading, and she was constantly telling me about the different books that she read. And I remember at one point she told me about a character in a book that she was reading who saw people as colors. So this character would like meet people and think, oh my goodness, that, based on their impressions and their personality, that person is a blue and that person is a red. And I thought that was so interesting. And then I said to my friend, oh, how do you see people? And she said to me that she saw people as songs, which I thought was so cool. So I'm going to borrow her perspective from way back then, and I'm going to tell you that when I hear the word sustainability, the song that starts playing in my head is "Where Is the Love" by the Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
And so that's literally, like, I just think, why have we stopped loving this planet the way that we should? By the way, excuse my terrible singing there. And I think it's ironic that obviously the band name it's named after a legume. There you go. I chose the Black Eyed Peas, and it's even more ironic that the Black Eyed Peas are not actually peas; they're beans. There you go.
Yeah. Oh wow. A bit of trivia there. Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's really impactful, and it's a really cool thing to see people as songs.
Yeah. I mean, when she told me that, I just thought, man, if I didn't already think you were a cool human being, you just really upped your game.
And now we're on Miss DC side train again.
We're always on the side train, Bella.
Fair. In every math lesson, we start talking about, oh yeah, guys, and whale sharks. No.
And look where we are.
Now we're going to talk about a bit more about how the words sustainability and green have been slapped onto almost everything now. What's something that we do in the name of sustainability and, being, good for the earth and everything that secretly harms the planet instead of helping it?
So what we do is, I think now by this point, it's safe to say that you'd be hard pressed to find someone who knew absolutely nothing about either climate change, sustainability, or the fact that the environment, the global environment, is so damaged. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who knew nothing about it. So I think that we've spread the message enough. That's a good thing. But what we, as a result of spreading that message so much, I think that people want to make more sustainable, more green choices. But with them doing that, they have a tendency to, as you've just said, just pick up something, read the label, and believe 100% what it says.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that we haven't regulated So many of these words, there's no regulation on it, there's no quality control on it, there's no transparency on it. And I think that, which now, we now have this new term of greenwashing. The fact that that is even a thing, I think is really sad and quite damaging.
Yeah, I think when people started to hear about sustainability and climate change, they were like, okay, I want to make a difference, but I don't really know how. So they just like picked up anything. They're like, okay, that's if I just start buying that and using it instead of, my regular detergent, then it could possibly work.
Yeah, well, they don't even think it could possibly. They think, it's told me that it's better for the planet, so it must be. But no one is regulating that. No one is checking that. No one is, so that is, that's definitely something that needs to be addressed globally.
Yeah, the regulation of it.
Yeah.
And you said before that you want people to think about sustainability. They're much more than just recycling and fancy products and clean energy. That it's also about how we live, what we value, and how connected we are to the natural world around us. If you had a magic remote control and you could zoom out...
Wish I had one.
And you could zoom out the way schools think about sustainability. What's the bigger picture you wish everyone, students, parents, teachers, anyone walking down the streets, could see?
So I don't know if you know this concept of the butterfly effect. So the butterfly effect is a concept that tells us that a tiny change in one place can set off a chain of reactions that grows larger and larger, eventually shaping massive outcomes somewhere else in the world.
Yeah.
So a butterfly flapping its wings in one country might slightly change air currents, which later influence a storm on the other side of the planet. So that's where this premise of the butterfly effect comes from. Now, climate change works in the same way. So every small action that adds carbon to the atmosphere, like leaving the lights on, wasting food, driving a short distance that could be walked, cutting down a tree, all of these little things, they're like tiny wing flaps. Now, if you take them in isolation, they might feel meaningless. But when you do it together, multiplied by the billions of people on the planet who are doing it every day, those tiny changes build up to rising global temperatures, which is the issue that we have now. With the melting ice caps, the stronger storms, droughts, floods, disappearing ecosystems, which is just heartbreaking for me. So I would love them to be able to see that bigger picture, because at the same time as the butterfly effect can seem quite fatalistic, it also should give us hope. Because when you actually change your actions and you make small positive changes, that can then grow into a powerful change. So when one person chooses to take their bike instead of driving, or they start a garden to teach their friends, or a company decides to switch to renewable energy, and suddenly other people in the industry are seeing that. So over time, all these little decisions will then ripple outward and change habits and policies, and hopefully the future of the planet. So what I would want them to see is that climate change shouldn't be seen as just something which is way too massive to process, because every single individual can make a difference. It's about the butterfly wings, it's about ripple effect, and it's about how often we remember that in our everyday actions.
Yeah, it's like saying there's like $10 for parking for 1 month, and then you're like paying that, and you're like, oh, that's cheap for a month. Well, like when you're building that up, so you had a membership for like 2 years, how much money would you have spent in the end?
Exactly, bigger picture.
Yeah. It's always about the bigger picture. And I think what you said about sustainability being massive and crazy to process is super valid, because a lot of people think that, everything about sustainability is like, oh, change your entire life, buy an electric car. It doesn't need to be that. Yeah, exactly. Even if you just choose to, do a slightly more, to take part in a slightly more sustainable alternative and not completely turn your life on end, then that would be cool.
And also, when people start changing little things, they hopefully will see that it's not that difficult to do. because I think they also think that it's, it's climate change, big, scary, I can't affect it, I can't change it, my life is still tough enough as it is. But it's not difficult to make these small changes. So yeah, we just need to make it more meaningful in a kind of small habits way.
Yeah, that's so true. Going back to your role at Citizens, you've helped build standalone sustainability curriculum aligned to the UN SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals, which for most kids sounds like something that lives on a poster or on the TV or in exams. Can you share your favorite moment where a global goal turned into a very local and very real learning moment for your students?
Yeah, so this was actually further down the school. So they weren't my students directly, but it was part of the sustainability that we were weaving throughout the school. And a group of year 4 students decided that they wanted to actually get data on how much food we were wasting in the school cafeteria.
Oh, wow.
So every day for 2 weeks, this wonderful group of students spent their free lunchtime time, instead of playing with their friends, they put on aprons, gloves, and they got the scales out, and they actually weighed the food that was being wasted every cafeteria lunchtime. Wow. And then having that physical data and being able to share that with the whole school community actually really shocked a lot of our community members. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of shock effect of this is what's happening in our school, it actually led to senior leadership supporting a working group between the students, the parents, and the cafeteria staff to not only adjust the meal portions, but also to actually have a hand in menu planning so that the cafeteria started serving more things that were still healthy, but that people actually liked, so that they would be less waste. So that was wonderful. Yeah.
It was something I spoke about with Mr. Moore in the previous episode, where sometimes people need to see the numbers.
Yes.
It's all well and good to say, well, numbers scare people. Maybe, but numbers also make the biggest impact.
And especially, absolutely, and especially when those numbers are from their own community.
Yeah.
It's not saying schools in Dubai in general, blah, blah, blah. It's saying, by the way, that over the last 2 weeks in our school, this is what's happened. And so, that shock value was really good there.
It's almost pointing a finger, saying, you took part in this. It was your fault, babe. Yeah. You often talk about reconnecting people with the natural world, which I really love, because most of us now live in big cities with more towers than trees.
Yeah.
When you imagine a school that is genuinely helping children feel like they're part of nature and not separate from it, what does that look, sound, and feel like? Are there particular spaces, routines, or sensory images that you think are absolutely essential?
So this is a great question, Bella, and you know what? It's extremely possible, and it is happening all over the world. So this is not a pipe dream question. Mm-hmm. The one that I guess is most famous globally is the Green School in Bali. So it's built. There you go, exactly. So it's built almost entirely out of natural, renewable materials, especially bamboo. Bamboo is a phenomenal material. They've got open air classrooms that you get, and they are designed to match the air currents that already, obviously, they already knew about, they studied. They didn't just randomly think, okay, we'll make it open air, but then not actually think about the flow of air. So, looking at the way the natural world works before we then go and plant something human there. And of course, they're in the jungle and the rice field landscape. So the Green School Bali is a very well-known example. Other lesser-known examples are, you've got Copenhagen International School, the Nordhaven campus in Denmark. So it's absolutely covered in solar panels. Apparently 12,000 solar panels. And they've also got indoor green spaces with tons and tons of natural light. So there you get, not only are you getting natural connection with nature, but you're also getting the fact that renewable energy is not difficult. It's not difficult, it's cheap, and it can power the school. Another one is, I might say this wrong, Escaula Oak House in Barcelona.
Yeah.
And they use geothermal energy. They've got water reuse via rainwater harvesting. They've got green roofs. They've got community gardens. They support composting. They've got allotment gardens, green walls, and they even kind of prioritize mobility parking. So bike parking or EVs get priority parking spaces, which is great. The thing about us being here in this desert biome is that people tend to look at it quite pessimistically, and they think, oh, it's a desert. How are you going to put more natural spaces, in a city like this? But it's not difficult. It really isn't. All you need is to give a little bit more time to allowing some good planning to happen. So if you look at sites like Masar, again, I might say that wrong. In Sharjah, or Sustainable City in Dubai, those are, they exist and they are beautiful. I don't know if you've had a chance to visit them. They're extremely green. And that greenery straight away lowers the temperature, so you don't get the heat island effect of having all of the concrete. Look, Bella, just give me a school to transform and I will happily show you.
You'll happily do it. And I think what you said about the pessimism with living in a desert biome, it's that. And also I think people start to use it as an excuse, saying that, well, I live in a desert. What do you expect me to do? I won't survive here if, I'm not using air conditioning. Well, there are a lot of alternatives, and you can also harness the heat and the sun and the UV radiation factor. Like a lot of people have now installed solar panels, and not only are they saving electricity and fossil fuels, but they're also saving money because you're not paying for that massive electricity bill. You're just using the sun and generating your own sort of
absolutely. And then even something as simple as thinking about, we have a lot of humidity here, right? We have huge amounts for a large portion of the year. Now, what is humidity? Humidity is literally pure water sitting there in your face, waiting to be used. So, stick some solar dehumidifiers on campus, and then they will extract that moisture, and you can use it to water the plants. So again, you're using planet-friendly tech to increase the landscaping of your school. So it's just about kind of having just a tiny bit of really basic knowledge, and then having good planning and wanting to follow through.
Yeah. Miss DC, thank you for the most beautiful conversation. It feels surreal, in the best way, to be interviewing the same teacher who once helped me keep a plant alive in year 4. Spoiler, the plant survived. Barely. You've reminded us all that nature isn't something we visit on weekends. It's something we're part of, something we can protect, and something that makes school way more interesting than any textbook. To everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this green adventure. Go outside, notice one tiny thing you've never seen before, and let it spark something. Big changes start with little curiosities. This is Bella from the Greenius, signing off, and so ready to continue this wonderful conversation. Stay curious, stay kind, catch you on the green side.